Westwood University. First day of freshman year. My new roommate rolled up in a flashy orange McLaren, showing it off to anyone who would look and taking every opportunity to throw shade at me. I took one look at the car and had to stop myself from laughing. It was one of mine, on lease from my buddy's exotic car club. I've got so many cars like it back home that just collect dust. So really, I should thank the guy for padding my pocket money. And since he's a valued customer, I figured I'd let him have his moment in the sun. For a few days, anyway. A week before orientation, to celebrate me getting into Westwood University, my best friend Chase threw a supercar meetup on the PCH. We were out there until 2 a.m., the sound of roaring engines echoing along the coast. The next morning, we were the top story on the local news blogs. In the grainy cell phone videos, you could see a sea of Porsches, McLarens, and Lamborghinis lining the highway. I was the one in the orange McLaren, but thankfully, I kept my mask on the whole time, and no one got a clear shot of my face. I figured the hype would die down by the time classes started. I was wrong. On move-in day, an identical orange McLaren was parked right in front of the freshman dorms, reigniting the gossip all over again. My new roommate, Sam Jones, completely lost it. He grabbed my arm and dragged me through the crowd, shoving us into a prime front row spot. I glanced at the license plate. Yep, definitely my car. Look at those curves, Sam breathed, his eyes wide. The scissor doors. Man, if I could just get behind the wheel, hear that engine roar, I'd be posting about it for the next decade. I hid my face, feeling a wave of secondhand embarrassment. It really wasn't that big a deal. Fully loaded, the car was maybe a couple $100,000. It was an older model my mom bought me a few years back that I barely drove. It was just sitting in the garage, so I told her I'd use it for dates in college. I wasn't interested, and it wouldn't fetch much on the secondhand market, so I just gave it to Chase to list at his exotic rental club. A little side investment to make some spending money. Business apparently was good. It had only been listed for a week. Maybe Sam's voice was too loud, because the owner standing near the car shot us a look, then rolled his eyes. Sorry, Sam mumbled, covering his mouth. Country bumpkin moment. I frowned, sizing up the owner. Rolex watch, Cartier necklace, head-to-toe, Balenciaga, Air Jordans. The whole look screamed one thing: new money. But I had to admit, it was effective. In the 5 minutes I stood there, at least 10 girls went up to talk to him. Nearly every one of them left with his number. It was the ultimate pickup machine. I reminded myself that this guy was paying me $700 a day to rent my car, took a deep breath, and kept my mouth shut. The customer is always right. I glanced at Sam, who looked a little dejected. I made a mental note to take him to my family's garage after orientation week was over and let him pick whatever he wanted to drive. A McLaren was nothing. I let him take the Bugatti for a spin. Just then, campus security arrived to disperse the crowd, so we started heading back to the dorm. Vroom, vroom. The engine roared to life, and everyone turned to look again. But I instantly knew something was wrong with the sound. I whipped my head around just in time to see a look of pure panic on the owner's face. A blur of orange was heading straight for us. He's in track mode. I reacted instantly, shoving Sam out of the way and kicking a row of parked Lime scooters into the street to create a barrier. What was this idiot thinking? If you don't know how to drive it, don't turn it on. Activating track mode in a crowded area, with no buffer, jumps the car straight to over 100 mph. He could have killed someone. And the last thing I wanted was my car to be involved in a fatal accident. SCRECH. The car plowed through the scooters, the sound of metal scraping against the asphalt piercing the air. The barrier slowed it down enough that it screeched to a halt after another 50 feet. The orange wrap was gouged with long, ugly scars, and I could see pieces of the undercarriage scattered on the ground. I didn't even need to inspect it to know the damage was severe. Thankfully, no one was hurt. The crowd had scattered in time. Alex, you're bleeding, Sam yelled, rushing over and grabbing my arm. I looked down and saw a deep gash on my forearm. I must have scraped it on a scooter when I kicked him into the road. Are you guys trying to pull an insurance scam? A guy yelled, jumping out of the passenger seat. He was clearly with the owner. The car was driving perfectly fine until you threw a bunch of junk in the road and made him lose control. He was going way too fast. Were we supposed to use our bodies to stop him? Before I could even get angry, Sam was in his face, holding on my bleeding arm. We're the ones who were hurt. If Alex hadn't blocked the path, who knows how many people would have been hit? Yeah, that car shot out of here like a rocket, someone in the crowd muttered. It was terrifying. People started murmuring in agreement. They all had eyes. They could tell it wasn't normal driving. What do you idiots know? That's how supercars are supposed to start up, the passenger shot back, ready to argue with everyone. You're just a bunch of hicks who've never seen a real car before. The driver, the supposed owner, said nothing. He stumbled out of the car, his face pale and his movements clumsy. It was obvious he had no idea what he was doing. He hadn't even figured out the controls. It's my car, I think I know how it works, he finally said, pointing a finger at me. It wasn't a big deal until you got involved. Now look at the damage. You're going to have to take responsibility for that. I was stunned. The first thing he does after almost causing a major accident is blame me. His attitude was so confident that some of the onlookers started to second-guess themselves. Maybe we did overreact, but man, fixing that scratch is going to cost a fortune. The owner pursed his lips and looked me up and down with a sneer. Obviously, you can't pay for all of it. So how about this? You give me $7,000 and I'll cover the rest myself. We're all students here. No need to make a scene. $7,000? Are you kidding me? Sam shouted, pulling me aside. For a paint scratch? He's trying to scam us. I stayed silent, genuinely unsure if the guy was trying to be generous or if he was just that clueless. The paint job alone would be at least $12,000 to fix, not to mention the busted-up undercarriage. The total bill would be well over $15,000, easy. Leo, you're being way too nice, his friend chimed in. This guy caused the problem, and now he's trying to weasel out of it. We're not trying to weasel out of anything. Sam shot back, his face red with anger. Look, the driver, Leo said with a sigh. I can tell this guy isn't exactly rolling in it. $7,000 is probably a lot for him. But when you make a mistake, you have to face the consequences, right? I almost laughed out loud. The two of them had tag-teamed this whole narrative and painted me as the villain. I pulled out my phone, dialed 911, and held my thumb over the call button. Fine, let's call the cops. Go ahead. You'll regret it when you're paying through the nose. We try to give you an easy way out, his friend sneered. Wait. Finally, Leo seemed to realize what was at stake. The moment I pulled out my phone, his expression changed. He rushed toward me. Hey, we're all classmates. No need to get the police involved, right? He hesitated, then gritted his teeth. Okay, look, how about you just give me $3,000? You have to take some responsibility for the damages. Was he haggling with me like we were at a flea market? Leo, why are you even negotiating with him? People like this need to be taught a lesson, his friend yelled, outraged on his behalf. In that case, I'm calling the cops, I said flatly, gesturing to the security cameras all around us. Let's have them determine who's really at fault here. Did this guy even have a driver's license? He was 100% at fault. In fact, I was the one who should be demanding compensation for improper use of a rental. Even after repairs, the car's value would plummet. But I had a feeling he wasn't thinking about that. He was probably just terrified of the police showing up and revealing the car was a rental. I had to admit, I kind of wanted to see that happen. Fine, forget it, he finally snapped, his face burning with frustration. I won't make you pay. Don't want you to do something stupid over a few $1,000s. He was trying to frame it as an act of generosity. Leo. His friend protested, but Leo was firm. He shot me one last hateful glare. Wow, what a guy. So generous, someone in the crowd said. Maybe you should just drop it. He's not even making you pay. Yeah, you're all going to the same school. It would be awkward, another added. The onlookers, who had been on my side moments before, were now completely won over by Leo's magnanimity. They were all telling me to let it go. Sam tugged on my sleeve, signaling me to take the win and walk away. I smirked. He was right. At the end of the day, the repair money was going to end up in my pocket anyway. I'll just have Chase send him the full, itemized bill. The thought of that wiped away the frustration of being framed, and I finally nodded. After Sam dragged me to the campus clinic to get my arm patched up, he lectured me the whole way back to the dorm. Dude, for a second there, I thought you were going to have to sell a kidney to pay him off, but you stood your ground. You totally called his bluff. He paused. Is this what they mean by the guy with nothing to lose has all the power? I grimaced and looked down at my outfit. Did I really look that broke? I just hope that McLaren guy isn't in our major, Sam continued as he unlocked our dorm room door. He seems like the type to hold a grudge. Total psycho. He pushed the door open, and we were met with two familiar, scowling faces. Path, Sam finished, freezing in the doorway. Of all the dorms in all the university, we had to walk into this one. This was a cosmic joke. TCH. One of them let out a dismissive scoff. He'd obviously heard Sam's comment. Since we were caught talking behind their backs, Sam and I decided to just ignore them and pretend we hadn't said anything. But it was clear they had no intention of letting it go. The battle had already moved online. Someone had posted a side-by-side of the McLaren at the dorm and a screenshot from the Pacific Coast Highway street racing video, confirming it was the same car. From there, they'd somehow dug up the owner's identity, a Westwood freshman named Leo Miller. My esteemed renter, the guy who, just hours earlier, had almost wrecked my car. And apparently, they hadn't just identified my car. They'd identified me as the driver from the PCH video, except they thought the driver was Leo. A link was posted in the freshman class group me, and someone tagged Leo. He didn't deny it, letting everyone believe he was the one racing on the coast last week. The chat exploded. Dude, can I please just get a picture in the driver's seat? For the gram. OMG, I've never seen a real supercar up close. So cool. The hype kept building, with dozens of people begging for a ride. Then, a student named Kyle posted, Leo's a really great guy. He even gave me a ride today. If the car hadn't been damaged, I'm sure he would have let everyone take a spin. By the time Sam showed me the messages, Kyle had all but explicitly accused me of scamming Leo in the group chat. What a loyal sidekick. And Leo, the man of the hour, said nothing. He didn't confirm, he didn't deny, he just let the narrative run. As a result, most of my classmates had a pretty bad first impression of me before we'd even met. I almost laughed. I went on the university's subreddit, found a few posts with pictures and videos from the incident, circled the important details, and posted them in the group me. Then I typed, when a McLaren is in track mode, the digital dashboard retracts. The minimum launch speed is over 60 mph. You really think I try to scam someone with my body at that speed? You give me too much credit. I then tagged the silent Leo. At Leo Miller, is my explanation correct? Why don't you, the owner, clear things up? Whoa, that's insanely fast. If Alex hadn't blocked it with those scooters, would it have hit someone? One person commented, I don't know, maybe it just looks fast. The owner would know what he's doing, right? Another replied. Finally, Leo was forced to respond. It's all a misunderstanding. Alex meant well. Another student must have been taking pictures inside and accidentally hit a button without me noticing. That's a lie. The car wasn't even fully started. You couldn't change the drive mode. It's all good, though, he added quickly. The dealership just called yesterday and said the new Lamborghini I ordered arrived. I'll bring it to campus after orientation week and give everyone a ride. I had to hold back a laugh. He meant he was going to rent another car from Chase. I didn't call him out. I let him keep his story going. As long as he left me alone, I didn't care. All I wanted was to get through this 2-week orientation nightmare in peace and move in my own apartment. Later that night, I was lying in bed when my phone buzzed nonstop. It was a string of furious voice messages from Chase. I put in my AirPods and was met with a torrent of swearing. He was simultaneously apologizing to me and cursing out the idiot who rented the car. He said as soon as the repair shop sent the invoice, he'd make the guy pay every last cent. He promised me an extra percentage point on my end-of-year returns, since I'd lent him several cars from my family's collection to get his rental business off the ground. For one of them to get damaged so soon was a bad look. I hesitated for a moment, but decided not to tell him that I had a small hand in the McLaren's injuries. Hey, who's going to say no to more money? The freshman wilderness week, as the university called it, wasn't actually that tough for me. Starting in middle school, my parents sent me to a rigorous training camp every summer. This was a walk in the park by comparison. Within a week, my instructor was singling me out for my perfect form and endurance. At first, a few other students made jealous remarks, but after I started sharing tips to help them avoid getting penalized for sloppy technique, we quickly built a strong sense of camaraderie. As for Leo and Kyle, they'd put on a fake smile and say hi to me in public, but back in the dorm, a Cold War was in full effect. It was me and Sam on one side, them on the other. It was, in its own way, harmonious, especially after the repair bill for the McLaren came through. I could feel Leo's eyes burning into the back of my head. I couldn't blame him. A 6-figure repair bill would make anyone homicidal, and that was after the shop gave him a discount because I was a VIP client. I just pretended not to notice. It wasn't like he could actually murder me in broad daylight. Halfway through the orientation, the school organized a team competition. The events were simple, just the basic drills we'd been practicing, but the prize for first place was a full day off. Suddenly, everyone was motivated. People were staying late to practice, determined to win that day of freedom. Our team had a good shot. We'd found our rhythm and rarely made mistakes. The instructor even said that if we kept it up, first place was ours for the taking. The optimists in our class were already making plans in the group me, video game marathons, poker nights, and even a party in front of the other majors' dorms. The next morning, the competition began. We moved through the exercises smoothly, following the instructor's commands. Suddenly, I felt an itch on my back like something was crawling under my shirt. I figured it was just a bug and tried to shift around to crush it. But a moment later, I felt the same crawling sensation on my chest, my back, and even my neck. Goosebumps erupted all over my skin. Under the hot sun, sweat dripped down my forehead. I could feel a small insect slowly making its way up my neck. I gritted my teeth and stood perfectly still, trying to finish the at-attention drill. Drip! A bead of sweat met the bug. Forward march, the instructor called. I let out a sigh of relief. Just a little longer. I started marching, moving my body vigorously to try and shake whatever was on me. Ah! The girl in front of me screamed. A few small, black dots had flown off my uniform and landed on her. I finally saw what had been crawling all over me, a handful of stink bugs. They had landed in her hair and on her face, and she was understandably freaking out. Our team's formation dissolved into chaos. I rushed forward to brush the bugs off her, then quickly unbuttoned my jacket. Several more bugs fell to the ground. My stomach sank. Someone had done this on purpose. I scanned the faces of my teammates, and my eyes locked with Kyle's. He looked away, a flash of panic on his face. I remembered seeing him lingering around my bed that morning before we left, claiming he'd lost an earbud. My jacket had been draped over my chair. I quickly checked my pocket. Inside, I found a folded tissue with another live stink bug crawling on it. There was a small, clean slit cut into the pocket lining. What the hell? Who would do something so messed up? Anyone with eyes could see I'd been pranked. Who carries a pocket full of stink bugs around? Sam grabbed the tissue from my hand, his face livid, and pointed at Leo and Kyle. It was you two, wasn't it? We've been in our uniforms all day. The only time anyone could have done this was back in the dorm. Don't accuse us. We never touched his stuff. Do you have any proof? Kyle shot back, his neck stiff with defiance. Sam, that's a serious accusation, Leo said, his tone much smoother than Kyle's. Even if we had a misunderstanding on the first day, we're all on the same team. Why would we sabotage our own chances of winning? He had a point. Everyone wanted the day off. Why would he ruin it for himself? As the scene got more chaotic, the instructor's face grew darker. I stepped forward. Sir, I disrupted the team's formation, I said loudly. I request to be disciplined. Alex, it's not your fault. You were set up. Sam protested behind me. The instructor stared at me for a long moment, then pointed at me and the girl I'd startled. You 10 laps. You 5 laps. Sir, I request to run her 5 laps as well, I said immediately. She only broke formation because of me. A mistake is a mistake. Excuses don't change that. We didn't have cameras in the dorm, so even if I could prove it was Kyle and Leo, that would have to wait until after the competition. Right now, rules were rules. Fine, the instructor barked. Vance, 15 laps for disrupting the formation. The rest of you, 1 lap for losing focus and speaking without permission. A collective groan went through the team. Soon, everyone else had finished their single lap, but I was still running under the blistering sun. 1 lap, 2, 8. My heavy uniform was soaked with sweat, feeling like a weighted vest. Sir, I'll run my own laps. Alex doesn't have to, a voice called out as I passed the team. It was Jessica, the girl I'd scared. She stepped forward. I lost my focus. It was my fault, too. It shouldn't all be on him. Sir, can I run the rest of his laps? Sam chimed in, stepping out of line. I was yelling, too. Me too. I can't do 7 laps, but I can do 1. Another teammate shouted. We're a team. We can't let Alex take all the heat. Looking at this group of people I'd known for less than 2 weeks, all of them willing to share my punishment, a warmth spread through my chest. The instructor stood silently, watching us. After a long pause, he gave a single, sharp nod. All right, guys, let's go. Sam yelled, ecstatic, and took off running. The rest of the team followed. The few who were too exhausted to run pulled me into the shade to rest. As I sat down, my eyes met Leo and Kyle's. They both quickly looked away. A few minutes later, the runners returned, and we fell back into formation. See that? That is teamwork, the instructor's voice boomed. On the battlefield, the enemy doesn't care about your excuses. Passing the buck, backstabbing your own, and ignoring the good of the group makes you a failure. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the team before landing pointedly on Leo and Kyle. Dismissed. Every single head turned to stare at Leo and Kyle. Leo maintained a look of pure innocence, but Kyle's face turned beet red. What are you all looking at us for? We didn't do it, he sputtered. His guilty conscience was practically shouting, but I still didn't get it. Sabotaging me was worth giving up a day off? Was he crazy? That afternoon, I got my answer. I saw Leo sitting in the shade, not participating in the drills. He'd somehow gotten a doctor's note for heat exhaustion. He'd had it since the day before, but had heroically pushed through the morning's competition so as not to let the team down. What a team player. I roll my eyes. Of course, he didn't care about the day off. He'd already arranged to have the next few days off anyway. Under the shade tree, a few girls from other teams were chatting with him. He sat in the middle of them like a king, an arrogant smirk on his face. A McLaren is pretty average for a supercar. Honestly, I overheard him say, the models get updated so fast. I just use it as my daily driver. Do you like Ferraris? I could bring one to campus after orientation is over. I silently rolled my eyes again. Is he here for orientation or to pick up girls? A few of my teammates muttered beside me. At first, people were sympathetic about Leo's heat stroke, but after a couple of days, it was obvious something was up. He looked perfectly healthy, chatting and laughing with girls while the rest of us were sweating through our drills. You can only get away with faking it for so long. Ever since Sam had called him out after the bug incident, the four of us in the dorm had dropped all pretenses of civility. The bug bites on my arms and back itched for days until Sam got me some ointment from the clinic. We had no proof, so I had to let it go. But it was a wake-up call. I called my mom's assistant and asked her to buy me a miniature security camera. If they were willing to put bugs in my clothes, who knew what they'd do next? Put something in my water bottle. Better safe than sorry. The assistant was efficient. She had the camera delivered the next day. During our lunch break, I walked to the edge of campus to meet her. From a distance, I saw my mom's daily driver, a black Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I knew you wanted to be low-key. See? Low-key enough for you. The door swung open, and my mom gave me a smug wink from inside. It was the middle of the day, so thankfully no one was around. But a Rolls-Royce is a Rolls-Royce, Mom. Oh, look at you. My baby's getting so tan, she said, pinching my cheeks and inspecting my face. Are you using the sunscreen I packed? And the face masks? Don't you dare end up looking like your father. I video chatted with him at the mine yesterday, and he has so many wrinkles you could lose a fly in them. She didn't even give me a chance to speak, just kept fussing over me while complaining about my dad, who was currently overseeing their diamond mine in South Africa. Oh, she said, finally remembering why she was there. Why did you have Ms. Evans buy you a mini camera? Is something wrong at school? It's nothing, just a precaution. No need to worry her with the petty dorm drama. All right, as long as you can handle it. She gave me a knowing look, and then her tone became serious. I'm flying to South Africa tomorrow to meet your father. We need to restructure some of our international business lines, so I'll probably be gone for 6 months. If you need anything, just call Ms. Evans. She handed me a black credit card with no spending limit. Spend what you want. Don't listen to your father. What's the point of earning money if you can't spend it? You can't take it with you. And if you meet a girl you like, go for it, she added. We might not have much, but we have plenty of diamonds and gold. You can take anything you want from my jewelry collection. Just don't be cheap when you're trying to win a girl over. Thanks, Mom. On behalf of my future wife, I thank you. When I got back to our common area, I found Leo and Kyle handing out Starbucks to everyone in our class. When Leo saw me, he froze for a second, then gave me a long, meaningful look. What? I finally asked, getting weirded out. Oh, hey, he said, shoving a pink drink into my hand. About the other day. It was just a misunderstanding. I actually respect you, man. If you ever need help with anything, just let me know. His tone was condescending, like he was bestowing a great favor. I took the drink, completely baffled. What was he talking about? Was he insane? Sam sidled up to me. Gossip is, he whispered, he's trying to impress Chloe from the design school. So he bought coffee for her entire class and our class. We're just collateral beneficiaries. Must be nice to be a trust fund kid, dropping that kind of cash to get a girl's attention. I wasn't surprised. A guy willing to pay $700 a day to rent a car wouldn't flinch at a massive Starbucks order. I was, however, curious about his financial situation. On one hand, he acted broke, haggling over a few thousand for car repairs and needing to rent a basic supercar. On the other, the Rolex he wore was real, a second-hand model, but real, and I'd seen his closet full of clothes that were easily several $100s apiece. Whatever. It wasn't my problem. Just a few more days of this orientation, and I'd be out of here. But the next day, my freshman advisor showed up at the training field, her expression grim, and told me to follow her to her office. Alex Vance, there's an anonymous post on YK Yak accusing you of being financially supported by a sugar mama. It says you have moral failings. Explain yourself. She tossed her phone on the desk in front of me. What? I picked it up, completely bewildered, and started reading. My jaw dropped. Someone had taken pictures of me and my mom yesterday. The first photo was of me sitting in the car while my mom pinched my cheek. Her expression was hard to read, making it look like she was inspecting a piece of property. The second photo showed me leaning against her while she laughed, the crow's feet around her eyes visible. The subsequent pictures were all taken from similarly ambiguous angles, making our interaction look intimate and transactional. It looked exactly like a college kid being doted on by his wealthy, older benefactress. The comments were on fire. OMG, so this is what it's like to be a sugar mama. Living the dream. I need this guy's out of my DMs right now. He's so hot. If only I were rich. Ugh, kids these days will do anything to avoid working. It's a disgrace that our university has students like this. Who cares if he's handsome? He has no morals. The school should expel him. If I look like that, I get a sugar mama too, lol. As the comments devolved, one thought dominated my mind. My mom better not see these pictures. She spends 6 figures a month on cosmetic treatments and would have a meltdown if she knew people thought she looked old enough to be my sugar mama. That's my mother. She came to visit me yesterday. I explained, handing the phone back. The advisor just frowned at me. Your stepmother or your biological mother. Don't try to mislead me. This has already been reported to the dean's office, she continued, her voice sharp. This is a very serious matter. If it's not handled properly, you could be expelled. Did I really have the face of a guy who needed a sugar mama? I sighed and tried again patiently. Ma'am, she is literally my mother. Then have your parents come to the university. Clearly, she didn't believe me. They're out of the country. Even if they came back now, they have to quarantine. Can we do a video call? Without waiting for her to answer, I pulled out my phone. I tried my dad first. No answer. The reception in the mines was terrible. Then I tried my mom. Still no answer. She was probably still on her flight. The advisor's skeptical gaze intensified. Great. Now I really had no way to defend myself. Alex, you're only a freshman. You have your whole future ahead of you. Why would you choose such a corrupt path? You are a deep disappointment to this university, she declared, her voice filled with a righteous fury. Look at you. You've been nothing but trouble since day one. You damaged Leo Miller's car. You disrupted the team competition. You falsely accused your roommates. And now this. It's been barely 2 weeks. She slammed her hand on the desk for emphasis. Leo Miller? The name caught my attention. How was he involved in this? A flicker of unease crossed the advisor's face. Regardless, it is a fact that your indecent behavior has damaged the university's reputation. Your best course of action is to admit your mistake. I will try to persuade the administration to be lenient and allow you to keep your place here. I almost laughed. I had denied it from the start, and she had already decided I was guilty based on a few blurry photos on a gossip app. This was ridiculous. I demand to speak with the dean directly. I wasn't going to get anywhere with her. Who do you think you are? You can't just demand a meeting with the dean. I suggest you adopt a more remorseful attitude and stop being so stubborn. I gave her a cold look and dialed Ms. Evans. I told her to handle it. 20 minutes later, Ms. Evans arrived at the office with the university president, who was out of breath and sweating profusely. Before the advisor could say a word, the president rushed over to me. Mr. Vance, please rest assured, the university will have the post taken down immediately and will issue a formal statement clarifying that the contents are malicious rumors. We will not allow your reputation to be tarnished. Mr. President, the advisor exclaimed, pointing at me indignantly. The evidence is right there. How can we let someone who corrupts our school's morals get away with no punishment? Be quiet, the president snapped. The woman in those photos is Mr. Vance's mother, Ms. Eleanor Vance. She just donated a new suite of equipment to the engineering department last month. I had dinner with both of them. Who do you think is more informed here? You or me? It was true. After I got my acceptance letter, my mom had made a sizable donation and arranged a dinner with the school's leadership, so I would know who to call if I ever ran into trouble. The president remembered, but my advisor clearly had a selective memory. You're covering for him, she accused, her voice rising. The Vances aren't our only donors. If we don't put a stop to this kind of behavior, what message does that send? That good-looking students don't have to work hard. I was stunned. So was the president. The advisor had convinced herself that the president was bowing to the pressure of money and telling blatant lies. You pack your things and go home. You're fired. The president stammered, shaking with rage. Fine. I will never bow to corruption, she declared, holding her head high like a martyr marching to her execution. I am so sorry, the president said to me after she'd stormed out. That was my wife's niece, a recent graduate. She's not the sharpest tool in the shed. I wasn't so sure. It wasn't about being dumb. It was about having connections and being easily bought. I glanced at the advisor's desk and saw a brand new, full set of La Mer skincare products. Just the other day, I'd seen the exact same set in Leo's cabinet. If Leo wasn't behind this, I'd eat my hat. The university moved quickly, issuing a statement to clear my name. They wanted to delete the original YK Yak post, but I told them to leave it up. The truth speaks for itself. Deleting it would just make me look guilty. By the time I got back to the dorm, it was 9 p.m. Sam was standing by the door, a dramatic hand over his heart. To see you finally take your rightful place as a man of means. This old servant can rest easy. My lord, he said with a sniffle, pulling out his phone and pointing it at me. Might this humble servant be allowed to re-enter your service? I don't ask for much. A simple 1,000 square foot room will suffice. I glanced at his screen. The anonymous gossip post, which had been gaining some traction during the day, had absolutely exploded after the university's official statement. The clown was me all along. This is literally a movie plot. He's rich, handsome, and low-key. I'm crying tears of jealousy. Some internet sleuths had figured out my major and full name. My classmates, who had a front row seat to the drama, had already forwarded the link to our GroupMe and tagged me. The chat had over 99 new messages, all asking what was going on. I ignored the questions about my family's wealth and simply confirmed that the sugar mama in the photos was, in fact, my actual mother. Then I shut my phone off and looked cautiously at Sam. So, wasn't that I was trying to hide it from him. It's just that during orientation, we were all living the same Spartan life. There was never a good moment to bring it up. And unlike Leo, I wasn't the type to brag about my wealth to every person I met. Bang! The dorm room door was thrown open. Leo stormed in, his face a thundercloud. Kyle trailed behind him, looking nervous. He saw me, and a malicious glint appeared in his eyes. Well, if it isn't the young master, he sneered, his gaze falling on the rugged canvas duffel bags I had stuffed under my desk. I didn't realize young masters used such shabby luggage to move in. Alex, Leo said, his voice dripping with condescension. The university may have saved your skin this time, but that's only because. He trailed off, leaving the implication hanging in the air. You should watch yourself. I was speechless. First of all, what was wrong with my bags? They were durable, waterproof, and easy to store. Besides, you couldn't even buy these bags. They were custom-made for guests at my grandfather's private wilderness resort in Montana, where a weekend stay starts in the 5-figure range. Second, what kind of narrative had they concocted in their heads? The university had officially cleared my name, and they were still convinced I was a sugar baby? Wow, it smells bitter in here. Did someone spill a bottle of vinegar? Sam said, looking around with wide, innocent eyes. Who are you talking about? Kyle snapped. I just can't stand people who pretend to be rich when they're really just mooching off someone else. It's pathetic. Doesn't he know his place? I had to suppress a smile. I wanted to tell him to look at his master, whose face was getting darker by the second. The insults were hitting a little too close to home. That night, I plugged in my headphones and started reviewing the footage from the mini camera I'd placed on my desk. The camera was only aimed at my own space, but it picked up audio perfectly. Sure enough, I found it. Yesterday, while the rest of us were at drills, Leo had come back to the room and made several phone calls. First, he called the freshman advisor to ask about my family background. When he heard my permanent address was listed as a rural ranch in Montana, he sounded relieved. Then he started complaining to her about me, claiming I was sabotaging him and turning our classmates against him. He was smart, I'll give him that, doing a little recon before launching an attack. But he wasn't smart enough to do a simple Google search of that rural ranch. It was my grandfather's resort, my mother's ancestral home. The entire surrounding area had been bought out to build it. A little digging would have revealed my identity, but that was probably too much to expect from Leo. And the advisor's knowledge was limited to whatever was on our intake forms. With a little prodding from Leo, she jumped to the conclusion that I was on a crooked path. No wonder Leo still looked at me with such disdain. He probably thought I got lucky and my sugar mama bought my way out of trouble. Next, I heard him on the phone buying an anonymous account to post on YK Yak. This was the jackpot. Ms. Evans's team had tried to trace the original poster, but the account was a throwaway, and the IP address was routed through a dozen proxies. Knowing where he bought the account was the key. But how did he get the photos of me and my mom? Her visit had been a last-minute surprise. As I kept watching, the camera's timestamp moved to this morning. We were all at training, but Leo had stayed behind. "Ma'am, I saw a post online about Alex Vance." I heard him say into his phone, his voice filled with feigned concern. "I think it might be true. Kyle and I saw him with an older woman when we went to get coffee yesterday. I'm just worried about how this might affect the university's reputation." His carefully chosen words were designed to spark suspicion. Unbelievable. No wonder he had such a weird look on his face when he handed me that drink yesterday. He'd already decided I was kept. The advisor had been right about one thing. I'd had nothing but trouble since I arrived. And it was all because Leo was buzzing around me like an annoying fly, constantly trying to cause problems. Was it all just because I'd bruised his ego a few times? Sam was right. The guy was pathologically petty. I had been planning to just let it go. We were in the same class, but after orientation, we wouldn't be roommates anymore. It wasn't worth the drama. But now I saw that my tolerance had only emboldened him. With the information from the camera, tracking Leo's online activities was easy. On the last day of orientation, Ms. Evans handed me a complete file, a chain of evidence showing Leo purchasing the anonymous account, creating the post, and spreading malicious rumors about me. I forwarded the entire package to the university president. Leo and I were both summoned to his office. The fired advisor was there too, glaring at me. The president, his brow furrowed, threw the file down on the desk in front of them. "See for yourselves. You want to talk about moral failings, about a corrupting influence? This is a freshman already engaging in such deceitful, malicious behavior. You almost ruined a promising student's reputation." Leo's calm expression vanished. This must be a misunderstanding. The advisor stammered, but her words lacked conviction. She had hitched her wagon to Leo. She had to defend him, even if she knew it was a lie. The office fell silent. Slander like this could be handled in many ways, and it all depended on my reaction. The university obviously wanted to keep it quiet, but as the victim, letting it slide didn't sit right with me. "Alex, I'm sorry," Leo said, his voice tight. To my surprise, he didn't even try to argue. The evidence was irrefutable. Before the president could speak, he walked over to me and bowed his head. "I was jealous of you. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Give me another chance." His fists were clenched. His face was red with shame. It was a flawless performance of remorse. He was, if nothing else, a talented actor. "Mr. Vance, what do you think?" the president asked, looking at me. I leaned in close to Leo, my voice low. "I don't care if you're sincere or not. I hope you learned your lesson from this. Stay out of my way, and I'll stay out of yours." I paused. When you pretend to be someone for too long, you start to believe the lie. I felt him flinch. In the end, the incident was resolved with the advisor's official resignation and a formal reprimand on Leo's permanent record. I decided not to push it further. Once orientation was over, our paths would rarely cross. He could play his trust fund kid role, and I'd just be another student. I never imagined that my moment of compassion would lead to an even bigger disaster. A week after classes started, I noticed a few students giving me strange looks. When I asked Sam about it, he was just as clueless. Then, a senior stopped me on the campus quad. She looked around furtively before pulling me aside. "So what's your rate?" she whispered. "Can I get your number? When I have the money, I want to." "You know, my rate?" I had no idea what she was talking about. "Oh, don't make me say it out loud," she said, blushing. "It's just you're so handsome that, even if it's like that, I'd still want to go on a date with you." She pulled out her phone, ready to scan my contact info, connecting her bizarre question to the weird looks I'd been getting. I played along and let her add me. Then I started asking some questions. What I learned made my blood boil. Someone had posted another anonymous story about me online. It claimed my rich kid persona was a front, and that I was actually a kept boy from a poor, rural family who had been supported by a sugar mama. Now that she had dumped me, the post claimed I was so broke I had to ride a Lime scooter to and from class every day. It alleged that the first time I was exposed, my sugar mama used her money and influence to crush the story and get an innocent advisor fired. The entire post was a veiled attack on injustice and corruption, and while it never mentioned me by name, it was clearly about me. The story was full of holes, but online, people only see what they want to see. If that senior hadn't approached me today, I might not have found out until the rumor was too widespread to contain. The grain of truth that I did move out of the dorms and often ride a scooter to class because my apartment was so close made the lie more believable. Unlike Leo, who seemed to be driving a different rented supercar every other day, I wasn't trying to broadcast my wealth. Ironically, one of the cars he'd been showing off, a new Lamborghini, was also mine. He was paying $5,000 a day for that one. Seeing him trying so hard to flex while lining my pockets almost made me like the guy. Almost. It was clear I had been too lenient. I didn't even have to investigate. The tone, the phrasing, it was all Leo. That night, Ms. Evans confirmed it. The post originated from him. The official reprimand hadn't scared him off. It just made him hate me more. I opened the confidential file Ms. Evans had prepared on Leo's background. I'd had it for a while now. It was the reason I hadn't gone for the jugular the first time. His parents were factory workers. His mother worked on the assembly line, and his father was a maintenance technician. Together, they made a decent working-class living, but they poured every spare cent into their son, sending him to private schools and paying for tutors, hoping he would get into a good university and escape their small town. The day Leo received his acceptance letter from Westwood, his father, celebrating with a few drinks, made a fatal mistake at work. He was caught in a piece of machinery and died instantly. The factory's life insurance payout was $140,000. It wasn't enough for a down payment on a house in this city, but it was more than enough to create the illusion of wealth. The money Leo was flaunting was his father's blood money. I had given him a chance. He didn't take it. I picked up the phone and called Chase. "Hey, you're hosting that private auto show in a few weeks, right?" Sent an invitation to Leo Miller. Chase's show was exclusive. You needed money and connections to get on the list. It was a world Leo could never access on his own. But I knew he'd been renting from Chase's club long enough to understand the prestige associated with it. To make the moment perfect, I had one of Chase's employees drive a Bentley to campus during the busiest time of day and hand-deliver the invitation to Leo in front of everyone. "You like to show off? I'll give you the biggest stage you've ever had." Whoa, an invite to that show is impossible to get. Who is that guy? I think he's a freshman. The one who had the McLaren on the first day. He must be legit rich and connected. I watched Leo's expression shift from confusion to pure ecstasy. He struggled to maintain a nonchalant facade as he accepted the invitation. "My dad and the owner had dinner a couple weeks ago," he announced to the envious crowd. I mentioned I was interested, and I guess he remembered. Hilarious. Chase has never met your dad. The invitation came with a +1, and people immediately started sucking up to Leo, hoping to be his guest. An event like that was less about the cars and more about networking. Rumor was Chloe, the girl from the design school, agreed to be his girlfriend on the condition that he take her to the show. For some reason, though, he took Kyle instead, and went straight to Kyle's head. "You know, Alex," he said to me the next day, practically looking down his nose, "if you just apologize to Leo, maybe he could hook you up with some of his connections. You can make some real money." He smirked. "Relying on your looks won't last forever. You need to build something real." The university already cleared his name. Sam snapped. If you keep spreading rumors, we're calling the cops. Even though the new slander post had been contained, the damage was done. Sam had tried to defend me by posting pictures from a weekend he'd spent at my family's estate, but it didn't help much. Please, Kyle scoffed. Who knows if that stuff belongs to Alex or his sugar mama? You think we're stupid? It was pointless to argue. I could get a DNA test with my mom, and people like Kyle would still believe what they wanted. Sam, you're defending him so hard, Kyle taunted. Are you hoping he'll introduce you to a rich benefactor too? Thwack! I swung my leg back and kicked Kyle square in the back, sending him stumbling forward. If you haven't washed your mouth, don't open it. Leo, who had been standing nearby, took an involuntary step back. Alex, just because the university won't get involved doesn't mean what you're doing is right, he said, puffing out his chest. You should really watch yourself. I stared at him, a slow smile spreading across my face. I'm no match for you, Leo. With your wealthy family and endless connections, I wouldn't dare. He really was starting to believe his own hype. All it took was one invitation. As my friend Chase would say, clueless and pathetic. A few days after the car show, Chase called me. Hey, you know that classmate of yours? He's being targeted by a group of grifters. You want me to warn him? Nah, I said, scrolling through Leo's latest Instagram story. It was a photo from a $300 a plate French restaurant, complete with wine and a beautiful woman. He looks like he's having the time of his life. It was all part of the plan. I'd had Chase set up a wardrobe and accessory rental service, just for Leo. For a fee, he could rent a complete, curated look for any occasion. The outfit he wore to the car show cost him less than $1,000 to rent, but it created the illusion that he was worth millions. To those social climbing women, he must have looked like a walking gold bar. The Patek Philippe watch he was casually showing off in his latest post told me he was very satisfied with the service. A few days later, Chloe and a group of her friends cornered Leo in the middle of our lecture hall. Leo, how could you cheat on me? She shrieked. Chloe, we were never officially boyfriend and girlfriend, Leo said with a frown, distancing himself completely. You must have misunderstood. Don't be ridiculous, Kyle chimed in, stepping in front of Leo like a loyal bodyguard. Leo's girlfriend is a high society heiress. They're in the same social class. You should really learn your place. Chloe ran out of the room, sobbing. An heiress? I thought about the woman from Leo's Instagram, her face pulled tight from too much plastic surgery. I didn't know about heiress, but she and Leo certainly seemed well matched. Only someone as naive as Leo would fall for the act those women put on. Maybe it was the bespoke rental service, or maybe it was the carefully curated social events Chase kept getting him into, but Leo had fully embraced his role as a young tycoon. He carried himself with a new, swaggering arrogance. It was the kind of cheap imitation of confidence that could only fool college kids. On the days he wasn't out networking, he was juggling a handful of girls on campus. And just as Leo was basking in the glory of his new, gilded life, a new post began to gain traction online. Exposed. A rented life of luxury with receipts. The anonymous poster claimed to be a college student who worked part-time at an exotic car club. They said they often saw a particular student come in to rent supercars. Then, when the club launched a new wardrobe rental service, the same guy started showing up there too. The poster said they didn't think much of it until they saw a story online about a Westwood University freshman named Leo Miller, a supposedly super rich kid with amazing connections. It was the same guy from the rental club. The poster claimed that after hearing rumors that Leo was toying with girls' emotions, they felt a moral obligation to expose him to prevent others from getting hurt. Then came the proof. A flood of high-resolution, candid photos of Leo renting cars, suits, and watches, complete with signed contracts and a redacted copy of his ID. It was undeniably him. I paid for a few bot services to push the post. Within hours, it was trending. Leo panicked. He issued a statement threatening to sue for defamation, claiming the photos were fake. But it was too late. Students at Westwood were already dissecting his every move, pointing out inconsistencies and lies. The whispers of doubt grew into a roar. Was it you? He confronted me after class, his voice a low growl. Was what me? I asked, looking him straight in the eye. It had to be because... He stopped himself, biting back the words. I sighed dramatically. At least he had enough sense not to bring up the fact that he had slandered me first. The details of his disciplinary action were never made public. "It was you," Kyle shouted, ever the attack dog. "You're a monster. Alex, what did Leo ever do to you?" I wonder the same thing. What had I ever done to him? Of course I was behind the post. There was no part-time worker. I got the photos directly from Chase. He liked using public opinion as a weapon, so I decided to let him see what a real firestorm felt like. "Then call the cops," I said with a shrug. "Slander is a crime." I knew he wouldn't dare. If the police got involved, his entire charade would collapse. He needed to worry less about who exposed him and more about how to salvage his reputation. The seeds of doubt had been planted, and it was only a matter of time before they bloomed. As expected, Leo went into overdrive, posting nonstop on social media, renting cars and clothes with frantic frequency. He was my best customer. To make things easier, I personally sourced most of the items he requested. The rental fees went straight into my bank account. I even gave him a discount. I was worried that if the prices were too high, he'd go broke and I'd lose my primary source of income. I was truly a very considerate business owner. At the same time, I made a call. I had Ms. Evans contact the university president and offer to sponsor the upcoming annual welcome gala. I had only one condition, that they add a new segment to the event called Honoring Our Families. The concept was simple. 10 students from each class, chosen by random lottery, would have their parents invited to attend the gala, all expenses paid. The announcement caused a huge buzz on campus. For a few days, everyone was talking about the new event, and the gossip about Leo faded into the background. Until the list of lottery winners was announced. Lucky, Leo Miller was back in the spotlight. "You've got to be kidding me. The one guy who doesn't need it wins. Congrats. Guess I'll go buy a lottery ticket now. Maybe your luck will rub off." The comment section was a mix of envy and congratulations. In our class group me, the new advisor posted the list and reminded the winners to submit their parents' information for travel and accommodation arrangements. After a long silence, Leo finally responded. "Ma'am, is it possible to give my spot to another student? My parents have a business conference that day and won't be able to make it." The chat instantly came alive. "OMG, give it to me. My parents are free." "Me too. Can the spot be transferred?" Of course not. After pulling all these strings to set the perfect trap for Leo, I wasn't about to let him escape. The spot was non-transferable. If his parents couldn't attend, the school would call them to verify. If the conflict was legitimate, they would arrange a live video call during the event. It would only take 2 minutes. I was very curious to see what he would do. Could it be that the expose was true? Sam typed into the chat. "Is that why you don't want your parents to come? Afraid you'll be exposed?" Sam was truly my voice. The group chat went silent for a full 2 minutes. What's there to be afraid of? Leo finally typed back. "I didn't know there would be a scheduling conflict." He paused, then added, "I just confirmed with my family. The conference is in the next city over. They'll be able to make it, after all. No need to waste the school's resources." "See, some people are just jealous," Kyle added, jumping to his defense. "Leo, you don't have to explain yourself to haters." I almost choked on my laughter. One way or another, Leo now had to produce his parents at the welcome gala. He had to prove to everyone, once and for all, if he was a real trust fund kid or just a renter living a lie. On the night of the gala, a sleek Maybach pulled up to the auditorium. A well-dressed, middle-aged couple stepped out, exuding an air of quiet wealth. "Mom, Dad," Leo said, greeting them with a confident smile. Kyle shot a triumphant, sneering look at me and Sam. I hope certain people are watching closely. Just because you're a mess doesn't mean everyone else is. "He's delusional," Sam muttered to me. "Those aren't his parents." He leaned closer. "But I gotta admit, they look the part. You think he hired actors?" I didn't answer, just watched the trio walk away, a small smile on my face. If he had brought his real mother today, if he had just admitted the truth, I would have called the whole thing off. It would have shown he still had some shred of decency. But he hadn't contacted his family at all. He'd hired actors. It was exactly what I'd expected, and yet I was still a little disappointed. When the Honoring Our Family segment began, I slipped out to a back entrance. A small, plainly dressed woman was pacing anxiously. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. "Alex, when can I see Leo? Do I look okay? I don't want to embarrass him." Her back was bent in a way that suggested years of hard labor. She seemed timid, shrinking into herself. From my angle, I could see the deep lines etched into her face and the gray streaks in her hair. She looked 20 years older than her true age of 40-something. A pang of guilt hit me. I leaned down slightly to meet her gaze. "Ma'am, you'll see him very soon. Let me take you backstage." "Is Leo doing well in his classes?" she asked as we walked, her voice trembling slightly. "Is he getting along with his classmates? He was never very close with us. His father and I, we were always working, trying to make money. We didn't have much time for him." Her voice was filled with a nervous energy. "But he's a good boy. He worked so hard to get into such a great university. If only his father could see him now." I stopped walking, unsure how to respond. I had arranged for Leo's mother to be brought here from her hometown last night, telling her it was a surprise for her son. Just then, the host on stage called Leo's name. The woman straightened up, smoothing her clothes and hair, a proud, eager smile on her face. "Ma'am." For a split second, I want to turn her around, to lead her out of the auditorium. What I was doing felt cruel, but it was too late. Leo was already on stage with his parents, beaming under the spotlight. The host's script, which I had written, gently prompted him about his family life. "I'm so grateful to my parents," Leo began, his voice smooth and practiced. "They showed me the world from a young age. They didn't just provide for me financially. They gave me so much love and taught me how to be a good person." He spun a tale of a privileged upbringing, of a cultured and educated family. With his tailored suit and the two poised actors beside him, it was a convincing performance. Murmurs of envy rippled through the audience. But next to me, Leo's real mother had gone pale. She was shaking, her eyes wide with a bewildered horror. She had no idea who the son on that stage was. I knew Leo wasn't a fake. I overheard a girl behind me whisper, "That exposé was just jealous slander." "Totally," her friend agreed. "I heard his new girlfriend is some venture capitalist. Their dates cost like $1,000 a pop. You can't fake that." "Alex, what are they talking about?" Leo's mother asked, her knuckles white as she gripped her armrest. Her eyes were red. I hesitated, then opened my phone to Leo's Instagram feed and handed it to her. On stage, the host was giving his closing remarks. I had scheduled this segment for the very end of the night to minimize the fallout for the other students. Our seats were in a carefully chosen spot, directly in Leo's line of sight as he came down from the stage. Sure enough, as he descended the steps, his arrogant gaze met mine. I gave him a small nod and then gestured to the woman sitting beside me. He stopped dead. Then he stumbled, tumbling down the last few steps and landing in a heap on the floor, his face ashen. I felt a slight movement beside me. His mother placed my phone back in my hand, her face a blank mask, and rose to her feet. She walked toward her son, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Slap! The sharp, clean sound echoed through the silent auditorium. "You bastard," she screamed, her voice cracking. "That was your father's life. He died for that money." She hit him again and again, a raw, ragged sound tearing from her throat. "I was afraid you'd be looked down on at school. I gave you all the money so you could be comfortable, so you could study, not so you could throw it away like this." She clutched her chest, sobbing, her body shaking so violently I thought she would collapse. "It's my fault. I failed you. I failed your father." The two actors, horrified, were already backing away, pulling out their phones. "This gig is over. I'm refunding the money. This is insane." They transferred the money and fled. "Oh my God, he hired actors. That's awful. His family is clearly not well off. How could he be so wasteful?" The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. Leo just sat on the floor, his head bowed, his fists clenched. Suddenly, he looked up, his eyes filled with a black rage, and launched himself at me. "It was you. You posted the story. You brought my mother here. You set me up. Are you happy now? Is this what you wanted?" I raised my hand and caught him, pushing him back. He fell to the floor again, pathetic and exposed. The students around us scrambled to get away. Kyle, his loyal defender, was hiding in the crowd, trying to be invisible. "The person you should be apologizing to is your mother," I said, my voice cold. "Stop trying to find someone else to blame for your own pathetic lies." I looked at him and suddenly felt nothing but exhaustion. "I told you I wouldn't expose you, as long as you stayed away from me." "Don't act so high and mighty," he snarled. "You're no better than me. You just have a rich sugar mama." I was done explaining. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and showed him the complete transaction history of his rental payments to me. You're right. I do have a financial backer. And for the past month, my biggest client has been you, my valued customer. Leo stared at the screen, his face slack with disbelief. No, it's not possible. It can't be you. Why not? I told you all from the start, and none of you believed me. Sam yelled from the crowd. Last time you slandered me, I let it go for the sake of the university, I said, putting my phone away. This time, my lawyer will be in contact. Leo seemed to be in a state of shock, muttering to himself. I didn't spare him another glance. I turned to leave. Wait, Mr. Vance. Leo's mother called out to me, her voice pleading. Ma'am, I said without turning around. I already gave him a second chance. Everyone has to be responsible for their own actions. I walked away, the sound of her quiet sobs following me out of the auditorium. After the gala, my lawyers filed a lawsuit against Leo for defamation. With his record, he was facing jail time. At first, he tried to reason with me. When that failed, he panicked and started scrambling to find a lawyer, trying to pin the blame on Kyle. He claimed Kyle had done everything using his own devices, and he, Leo, was merely an innocent bystander who failed to report it. Kyle, finally realizing he'd been a pawn, got into a massive fight with Leo in their dorm room. In his rage, he confessed everything. How Leo had manipulated him into putting the bugs on my uniform during orientation, and how Leo had bribed the advisor to punish me and force a confession. The university's verdict came swiftly. Leo was expelled, but he had bigger problems. The court's ruling was imminent. He tried to call on his new high society friends, but they were all gone. His supposed heiress girlfriend had blocked his number after conning him out of a significant sum of money under the guise of a joint business venture. When his mother went to her office to demand the money back, the woman called the police. I had someone quietly help her, and we discovered that of the $140,000 from the insurance payout, only $10,000 remained. He had burned through the rest in less than 2 months. The story became a campus legend, with students following every new development online. The final outcome was a cautionary tale. I told you Alex was the real deal. Sam crowed online, tagging every person who had previously accused me of being a fraud. He's not the one with the sugar mama. He's the sugar daddy. Ha. The comments section filled with jokes. Adopt me. Do you need a professional freeloader? I'm great at eating and providing nothing of value. I never expected things to blow up this way. My parents called me from overseas, and I had to assure them I was fine. They told me the recent death of the Queen had disrupted some of their business in Europe, and they might be delayed in coming home. I told them not to worry. The day Leo's sentence was handed down, Chase called. The orange McLaren was finally repaired. He asked if I wanted to put it back in the rental pool. I paused. If I had never rented out the car, Leo would never have driven it. We might never have crossed paths. None of this would have happened. I smiled to myself. Who knows? There was no point in dwelling on it. You make your choices, and you live with them. Yeah, list it, I said. It's no use just sitting in the garage. I hung up, grabbed my backpack, and headed out for class. I was just a college freshman. I had more important things to think about.